building up a platform where hope can be
Welcome to
seen.
the Nikki Clarke Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nikki Clarke, and I am so excited to be back again with another amazing interview. The Nikki Clarke Show is where we celebrate extraordinary people, inspiring stories, and conversations that educate, empower, and transform lives. And we've been doing this for almost 18 years. This is incredible. So today we are honored to welcome Karen Peters-Bowden. She's the founder of E3 Counseling and Wellness and creator of the E3 Method, Energy, Empowerment, and Embodiment. With nearly 3 decades of experience in the mental health field, Karen has developed a unique approach that bridges clinical psychology with energetics, embodied awareness, and shamanic practice. Her work helps individuals reconnect with themselves, navigate grief, heal emotional wounds, and rediscover the wisdom and wholeness that already exists within them. Karen is also an accomplished speaker, educator, and author, and her upcoming book, The Embodied Grief Guidebook, a pocket guide to regulate, reconnect, and rebuild after loss, offers compassionate guidance for anyone navigating loss through a combination of professional experience, expertise, and her lived experience. So, Karen, welcome to the Nikki Clarke Show.
Well, thank you so much, Nikki, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. And 18 years for you being on a podcast with your viewers. I mean, that's just so impressive. Congratulations for all your success.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's really been an honor and a privilege for me to listen to these incredible transformational stories. And I've grown so much as an individual. So it's really a joy. So let's get to learning more about who you are, the journey. So, Karen, what inspired you to dedicate your life to helping others heal?
Well, it's interesting. Thank you for that question. You know, when I was in college for a while before I went into social work. And I was certainly in counseling myself and had a great deal of underlying mental health issues and experiences with PTSD. And I originally went into social work because I wanted to assist and support people through that process. I
Mm-hmm.
learned throughout my years that really we cannot rescue and we cannot save anyone. And so part of why I went into clinical work was not consciously knowing at the time was to really rescue and heal and save myself.
Wow.
And through my journey, I had a very successful private practice for many, many years. But like I said, I was still struggling. And I began, continuing to suppress the underlying trauma that I experienced and created myself as well with alcohol and with food. In 2017, Nikki, I had a major health scare. I had to
Mm-hmm.
have surgery. And so, for one might think that that could be a catalyst for change, which it absolutely could be. For me, instead of taking personal responsibility and choosing in that moment to make changes, I continued on the same path. And it
Mm-hmm.
got to the point that my drinking and binge eating uh, were so exasperated that my physical health was really suffering. My sugar levels were escalating and de escalating, high and low, thyroid issues. And it got to the point where not only physically was I significantly impaired, which absolutely was affecting anxiety, depression. I was experiencing panic attacks. It got to the point where I almost lost my relationship with my families and lost my children. And I distinctly remember going to bed one night feeling completely
Mhm.
powerless. And I was in such a state of panic. And if any of your viewers have ever experienced, or anyone has ever experienced panic attacks, they may relate to this. Like I was feeling, my heart was beating so fast, I felt as if, my heart may stop. I may have a heart attack. I may not wake up. And I fell asleep that night. Uh, and obviously, I woke up, right, the next morning. And what occurred during that time is what I would describe as a very expansive and very profound spiritual moment for me. And I woke up with such a sense of overwhelmingness and gratitude. And just by feeling my heart beating and my breath. And then with that was when the shift for me occurred. Then, through my own healing and my own work, I started getting more involved with Reiki and energy. I started looking into, as I was healing my physical body, I got into nervous system work and certified in trauma yoga and sound. And it eventually led me to onto high quantum Reiki and shamanism. And in 2022, the E3 Counseling of Wellness emerged. And as it evolved, the E3 method uh, was created.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that powerful story of your
Thank
impetus
you.
to starting this amazing mission. So let's talk about the E3 method. Now, what does energy, empowerment, and embodiment mean?
Sure, sure. The simplest way for me to describe it is a framework that supports an individual in becoming, in a healthier, better relationship with themselves, with awareness and understanding. So through energy, and through clinical assessment, working with the nervous system, working with the physical body, working on an emotional level with the energetics, a, a person becomes more aware of underlying patterns and conditionings that have been contributing to their choices in decision making. So, example, reacting instead of responding, and
Mhm.
through that, in coming into a more expanded, deeper relationship within themselves, it can assist someone in becoming more confident, more trusting of themselves, more connected, not just with themselves, but with others. And that's really, where the empowerment process is. And
Mhm.
then the embodiment process of the method is really taking it from, okay, I'm aware, I have the insight, I can make different choices, to really shifting that into lived experience.
Right.
Healing is not about, for me, right, not ever experiencing challenges, difficulties, grief, loss, trauma in our lives. The healing is about recognizing it and being aware of it, and instead of automatically continuing in similar patterns, to make a more conscious choice. And that can promote a greater sense of well being, connectedness, enjoyment, balance in a person's life.
Fantastic. So let's talk about many people live disconnected from themselves. How can someone begin reconnecting with who they truly are?
That's a great question. Um, it begins by really working with your own internal relationship. And I believe in becoming more present and aware with your body itself. And it can be as easy as noticing an intense emotion as it comes up. And it could be a simple question asking, is this coming up from what's occurring right now in this exchange with this individual, or why I woke up this way today? Or is it from something earlier? Is it from something more? And then just paying attention and listening to that is huge. And then another step is really coming into and balancing, right, from a parasympathetic view, right, the vagus nerve response. And with that, getting out in nature, gentle movement, allowing yourself, right, affording yourself. It doesn't need to be 3 hours, right? A minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes during the day to just do a simple scan with yourself. How am I feeling in my body? Am I noticing any tension? Like, do a stretch, get up, go to the bathroom, take a breath, right? How am I feeling emotionally? I like to say, like, what's my internal weather? Is it heavy?
Mhm.
Is it foggy? Is it dense? Like, what can I do to lighten that up a little bit, right?
Mhm.
And moving with that, it it starts, often it can come in huge shifts and transformations. And also it can stop with just the simplest actions throughout the day, connecting with yourself.
Absolutely. Now, why do you believe healing involves the body just as much as the mind?
Well, the body is communicates with us all the time, right? I mean, there's information now, there's evidence now. We know our bodies, our nervous system are connected to our emotions. So connecting with the body internally promotes a sense of safety. Often we may perceive a threat. We may be in a situation that brings up anxiety, or we perceive it as a threat. It's not necessarily a threat, but something within the body, something that's stored within underlying patterns with emotions that have been suppressed, very well can be coming up in that present moment. So by connecting with the body, asking yourself a question, am I safe? You know,
Mhm.
and then taking a breath, calming yourself down, then begins to send messages to the body that it was a perceived that threat. It's actually not occurring right now. And,
Mhm.
you know, you can choose to respond differently.
I love that.
I
So
want,
let's talk about,
may I
yes.
add one to that though, Nikki? Because as I say that, I also heard, so for any of your viewers or anyone that watches this, if you are in a situation that is unsafe, or you're at risk or imminent risk for harm to yourself or someone else in a situation, like, I encourage everyone, please, like, reach out to your local resources, to organizations, to religious affiliations. Uh, there are resources available that can assist you, and reaching out for support is not a sign of weakness. It certainly is a testament to your own resilience and strength and capacity, and courage to heal. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you so much. That's a very important message. Thank you for that. So tell us
Yeah.
about your upcoming book, the Embodied Grief Guidebook. What inspired you to write it?
Thank you so much for bringing that up. I was inspired to write it not just through my own lived experiences with grief and loss, but also with sitting with clients, while experiencing their own grief. And I've seen and I saw, and I felt in moments in my own life that like grief is something to just get over and we just move on from. And in some ways, based on the culture and society you've been raised, that, that also can be encouraged. And I don't view it as that. I view grief as something that we walk with, that exists and is also present because it also is a display of our capacity for love. So I
Mm.
wanted to write this book to not only honor grief in that way, also to offer just practical, simple ways for people to begin reconnecting with themselves, sitting with grief. I created it as a pocket-sized companion, so it can be with you and go with you if you so choose. And it's not a book. You can read it like from beginning to end. The chapters can stand alone. And there's also a chapter in there also for helping professionals and those who hold space and sit with others in grief.
Mm. Excellent. I've spoken to people who are grieving, and they get a little frustrated when they're told to, oh, enough time has passed, get over it. And
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself, who, I've dealt with grief multiple times, and it's like, no, there's no expiry date. It's whenever you are ready, to move on from that. And sometimes the grief will show up in the most unexpected times. I remember, Karen, when I was doing something, like a function, and my younger brother had passed away like a week before, but I was committed to doing this major function. And I just remember telling my brain, shut off every emotion, do what you need to do. And then as soon as the lights were off, I sat in a corner and I cried and I cried and I cried, and then came back out. And it was that cycle for some time, just doing the public facing, going in a corner and crying. And that's just how I managed. But it's different for everyone. But like I say to everyone that comes with that statement, grief has no expiry date.
It isn't, and it can also be one of our greatest teachers. And thank you so much for sharing some of your lived experience, because that's exactly it. It's not that you were suppressing, you recognized it in the moment. You said you committed to something, you completed that commitment, but then you gave yourself that permission and you allowed yourself to just release that
Mhm.
and sit with it. And that's just a beautiful expression, yeah, of some of what inspired me to write that. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Is it possible to experience joy again after profound grief?
You know, I listened to what you asked, and what immediately came to me was a clip that I did. And, we can get stuck so many times in emotions, whether it be grief or otherwise. And joy is here, you know, joy is an emotion, it's an experience, it's a vibration, it's a frequency. It's not that it's gone or lost, it's about recognizing it and allowing it to come back in, even if it's for a fleeting moment. And it could
Mhm.
be just, someone experiencing grief and they wake up one day and they listen to a song and they just are smiling in that moment. It's not so much that joy is not here, it's allowing yourself to receive it and bring it back in, and then noticing, even if it's fleeting moments, that it's still with you.
It's still with you. I love that. So, what daily practices help us become more grounded, present, and authentic?
Sure, simple strategies. I'm not going to be one to say 3 hours of exercise and meditation, although they're very powerful and really, really beautiful. Simple practices. Again, give yourself permission. Connect with yourself on the daily. Make a note. And you can coincide it with things we automatically do. We automatically breathe. We automatically do. We don't think about it. We're breathing. We wouldn't be here without it, right? So a few times a day, pay attention to your breath. Take a nice expansive breath. You'll notice if you've been shallow breathing, especially, if you've been going, or you're experiencing some generalized anxiety, worry, deadline coming up, anything like that. I also encourage and I encourage people and invite people, and these are some of the practices for me that work that I do daily, is some movement every day. It doesn't have to be going to the gym for 2 hours, but even if it's just before heading, into the office or into work, taking 5-10 minutes, giving yourself a beautiful stretch, moving a little bit, putting on a song if you so choose, doing a little bit of swaying. That motion, it is, and movement is so paramount to our health and well-being as well, right? And I mean, not only does it increase circulation and etc., just, I mean, on every level possible, it's so important. And we're honoring our bodies, we're honoring ourselves by doing that. And then another daily practice, I really like to say, if you can, get outside, even if it's for 5 minutes. If you're at an office, at lunch, walk around. If the sun is shining, just go outside, just stand there for a moment, and just feel the warmth, sense the brightness of the sun. It's so beautifully recharging, as well as water. I always say anything with water, taking a bath, taking a shower, singing in the shower, humming in the shower. Humming is another beautiful activity. Humming our own voice has such tremendous healing in itself. And when we hum, or we're humming a tune, or singing a song, or chanting, it really connects us with our bodies, our nervous systems, our emotions. Uh, it's an interesting experiment to walk into a room or, go somewhere and begin humming and just see what happens. Just see what happens. And I'm going, because what just came to me is, I'll share it. Recently, I was away with the family and we were up north and we were at a lake. And of course, I was walking into the bathroom, right? And I was humming in the bathroom. Unbeknownst to me, one of my children and their partner was also in the bathroom, but they didn't see me. But they heard me humming, and then they started humming, right? And then we were laughing. And then as we were leaving the bathroom, there was a young person, potentially 3 years old, came in, and he was just singing at the top of his lungs. And that right there, like, that was joyful for me.
Absolutely. You started a chain reaction of humming and singing. That's fantastic. So tell us, what's next for you, Karen, and E3 Counseling and Wellness?
Oh, wow. What's next? Well, shortly after this podcast, the guidebook will be published. So it's in finalization. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you so much. And besides that, I have made the decision that I'm going to quickly get to work on a companion journal for it. So the journal will be a little bigger, probably 5 by 7, And what will be included in the journal is a lot of the practices and exercises, so that if people are so called, they could buy it, with the companion, or they could even just separately, look at the journal and then write in the journal. So that will be the next writing project, to offer that companion. And I'm opening up 5 or 6 slots for working one-on-one intensively with the E3 method. I have a number of services, holistic and energetic services, on-to-high services that I offer. And I'm specifically opening up 5 or 6 slots to work with the E3 method. And late fall, I have another local speaking engagement. So I'm very excited about that. So those are some of the short-term occurrences that will be happening.
Beautiful. Well, I'm excited, and congratulations again. That's huge.
Thanks.
So finally, our final wrap-up question. If every viewer watching today could leave this conversation remembering one truth, what would that be?
Wow. That's such a profound, powerful question. I would like to leave the viewers and those watching with this message, that healing is not necessarily about fixing. And through the lived experiences, choices, decisions, and traumas one does experience, it is not the entirety of who you are. Our wholeness and our worth are not something that we earn or achieve. They're aspects of our original nature. And everyone has a capacity within themselves to heal.
Everyone has the capacity to heal. Thank you so much, Karen Peters-Bowden, founder of E3 Counseling and Wellness. I really do appreciate your pearls of wisdom today. And if people want to reach out to you, get counseling, follow you on social media, how can they find you?
Sure. My website is the e3wellbeing.com. If people would like more information, they can set up a call on my website. You will be speaking to me. I do answer and, schedule and meet with everyone individually. And also, if you want to, I can be reached by email. The email is e3wellbeing3@gmail.com. And on my website are my links to my social media. And I can be direct messaged also.
Fantastic. Karen, I just want to thank you for sharing your wisdom, compassion, and decades of experience with us today. Your work reminds us that healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about reconnecting with the wisdom, authenticity, and wholeness that already live within us. Thank you for joining us today on the Nikki Clarke Show, and thank you to our viewers for watching. Until next time, remember to keep believing in yourself, keep growing, and keep transforming lives one story at a time. Thank you, Karen. God bless.